It started with little things I told myself I was imagining. My wife, Claire, began spending longer hours at work, claiming that projects were running late or that her boss was piling deadlines on her. I wanted to believe her because that's what love does. It blinds you to the cracks forming beneath your own feet. I had taken vows with this woman, built a home with her, and raised dreams side by side. Doubting her felt like doubting myself. But I couldn't ignore the way her phone became glued to her hand. Every buzz, every ding, and she would tilt the screen away. When I leaned in to kiss her goodnight, she'd flinch if my hand brushed over her pocket where the phone hid like some dangerous secret. It hurt more than I could admit out loud. One night, she claimed she was heading to her sister's for girl time. Hours passed, and I couldn't shake the feeling in my gut. I checked her location using the family tracker app she had forgotten I still had access to. My chest went cold when I saw she wasn't anywhere near her sister's house. Instead, she was parked outside a dingy motel on the edge of town. I told myself maybe I was wrong, maybe there was an explanation, but deep down I knew. My hands shook as I sat in the car across the street, watching her step out with a man I didn't recognize. He was tall, muscular, the kind of man who carried arrogance in his shoulders. They walked inside together, and I sat frozen, staring, while the air inside my lungs burned. The following days were a blur. She smiled at me like nothing had happened, kissed my cheek in the kitchen, told me she loved me, all while my chest carried the weight of that motel door slamming shut in my memory. I wanted to confront her, but the fear of hearing the truth out loud kept me quiet. Then, one evening, the knock came. Heavy. Aggressive. I opened the door and there he was, the man from the motel. He stood in my doorway, his eyes dark, his hand gripping a metal pipe like he had pulled it straight from a construction site. "You need to let her go," he growled, stepping forward. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might rip through my chest. "She doesn't love you anymore. She's mine now." I wanted to laugh, to scream, to collapse all at once. This stranger had walked into my home, into my life, and claimed the woman I had built everything around. But beneath his threat, I saw something else, fear. He wasn't just trying to scare me. He wanted control, the kind of control men like him needed to feel powerful. "You think waving a pipe in my face makes you a man?" I asked, my voice trembling but steady enough to make him pause. "You think taking another man's wife is something to be proud of?" His jaw tightened, and for a moment he stepped closer, the pipe glinting under the porch light. "She chose me," he spat. "You're nothing but dead weight holding her back." Claire appeared behind him then, her face pale, her eyes darting between us. She looked nothing like the woman I had loved for years. She looked like a stranger who had gambled everything and was now realizing the stakes were too high. "Please, just stop," she whispered, her voice shaking. The world felt like it spun slower in that moment. My wife, the woman I had sacrificed for, lied for, fought for, had invited this chaos into our lives. And now her lover was in my doorway, threatening me with violence, demanding I surrender her like some possession to be handed over. I took a deep breath and stepped forward, closing the space between us until the cold steel of the pipe pressed lightly against my chest. "If you think you can scare me into giving up on my own life, my own vows, then you don't know what kind of man I am." My voice cracked, but I didn't back down. "You might take everything from me, but you will not take my dignity." For a moment, silence hung heavy. His knuckles whitened around the pipe, his breathing ragged. Then he dropped it, the clatter echoing against the porch floor. He turned to Claire, muttering curses, and stormed off into the night, leaving her standing there with tears streaming down her face. I looked at her, waiting for some explanation, some apology, but none came. Just silence and shame. And in that silence, something inside me broke. The love I once carried had died, replaced with a quiet strength I didn't know I had. That night, I packed a bag. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I simply walked out the door, leaving behind the ghost of a marriage that had already ended long before. Weeks later, papers were signed, and the affair became public knowledge. Friends whispered, family judged, but I carried myself with my head high. Because in the end, she betrayed me, and he threatened me, but I survived. And survival, I realized, was the ultimate revenge.